let's see if who John's number 3 is. John, who is your third ranked quarterback for this draft class?
All right. Well, as we talked about earlier, we know who each other's number 1 is, and so this is kind of going to make or break who are if we have the exact same one. But my number 3, and this one's interesting because I think that he could have the highest ceiling out of any quarterback in this class. But it is
I already know what you're talking about.
Anthony Richardson out of Florida. I mean, the guy, if you watch the combine, he put on a crazy combine. He's 6'4", he weighed almost 250. He's got long arms, big hands, and he ran a 4.4 340 time. Like, for a guy that size running a 4.4, it's pretty impressive. That said, he had a lot of issues when it came to reading the field, decision making, just a lot of the stuff when it comes to like actually being the quarterback. He had some struggles. I mean, I'm even looking at some of the stats here. In 2022, he completed 54% of his passes, and I already know that we're going to see a lot of people comparing him to Josh Allen because of that specific stat. And I just want to put this out there because I say this every time, but just because Josh Allen did it doesn't mean there's ever going to be another Josh Allen, because we saw it with Trey Lance. All these different quarterbacks are going to compare to Josh Allen. Now, Richardson could, though. I mean, who knows? I'm not saying it's impossible, because, I mean, he is my number 3 quarterback here, and that's just because the skill set that he has is just so crazy impressive. If they can just refine the actual stuff that it is to play quarterback, then, I mean, he could be one of those guys that's up there with Herbert and Allen and Mahomes and like the freak athletes who can just make throws that nobody else can make. So yeah, Anthony Richardson, he is my number 3. I mean, it's interesting because I think he could be like, he's in terms of speed, athleticism, all that kind of stuff. He's faster than the Josh Allens and the Mahomes and all those guys. Like, he's in there with Lamar and Justin Fields and Kyler. He might not be as agile as they are because of his size, but in terms of top end speed, 4.43, like, that's deadly. And then you add on just the crazy arm talent he has. I mean, like, he could be a freak like no other if he can figure it out. But once again, that's a big if. I do have him as a first round quarterback just because when you see a guy who has that much talent, I don't know. I think you just got to get that 5th year option and try and develop him. That means maybe he has to sit for a year or 2. But yeah, I think that he's got that kind of talent. And we've seen other QBs like this go super high. I mean, notably Trey Lance just recently went number 3 overall. So we'll see where Richardson goes, but he is my number 3 quarterback.
Well, John, seems like we have the same list because I also have Anthony Richardson at number 3 also. Pretty much, I've going to piggyback off your evaluation. You mentioned probably, if not the strongest arm, it's like tied with the strongest arm in the class, and very strong arm, but yeah, accuracy, mechanics can be an issue. I would say he's about as kind of polished as Malik Willis out of last year, but you mentioned the off the charts athleticism, and I think that's what has pretty much helped kind of boost him up to the scene, and rightfully so, because, and I'm saying this respectively, those are just freak measurables and numbers that you're mentioning. And just as a comp, once again, not saying he is this guy coming out. I think he was more, but comp for him was like Cam Newton. But obviously Cam, I think, was a more polished passer coming out, and which obviously why Cam number 1, but kind of similar style almost. But and just interesting. I know we have 2 other quarterbacks to talk about, but just draft wise too, because I just want to put this out there because Panthers seem like they're going to take a quarterback. So, and then same with the Texans, and Cardinals are good at 3, and as right now the Colts are at 4. So in theory, since we both have this guy at 3, this guy could in our opinions, Anthony Richardson could be going to the number 4 here, which would be the Colts, which would be very interesting because it's Shane Steichen, OC from the Philadelphia Eagles. I know we'll do our mock stuff later, but just interesting fit there. But he would fit that kind of style of an offense. I think early on, like you mentioned, maybe sit, but hey, he could first year may be very much. I'm not saying Lamar MVP numbers, but Lamar Jackson style, Jalen Hurts style, where it's just going to be the quarterback run's going to be a big part of the game, and rightfully so. Hopefully, though, because like I mentioned, sometimes sometimes too with the I mentioned a lot of these younger quarterbacks do like to maybe bail out of the pocket early. He did that a lot, but that's a strength of his, and I just hope it doesn't get coached out of him. But nonetheless, in regards to the actual other things I noticed, would like to see a little bit better pocket presence out of him, but it's that one was hard for me because I'm like, man, like I understand it sometimes because, like you said, and like we mentioned, just freak athleticism. Like I'm sure that's probably what. And we don't know what the coaches are coaching it, but it just seemed like that was like the mentality they told him early in the season, where it's like, hey, your first read's out open. We know what you can do with the ball in your hands. Go make something happen. So that may be something he has to work on the next level, is just going through his progressions a little bit more and trusting them. And then obviously fixing his mechanics a little bit, just touching them up. Obviously he's at 3, and I think he's a little bit better, more polished of a passer than Levis. I think he's at least a little bit more consistent. But once again, who knows with more tinkering what can be done. But the athleticism off the charts, and that's what pretty much was the pushing point as to why I made him 3, and why I'm assuming you also made him 3 over Levis. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Richardson. And I know, once again, I didn't mean to jump the gun on the mock thing, but I just couldn't help but think that, like, man, this is like, if it goes by our rankings, it's kind of perfect for the Colts if they go quarterback.